You think you know the Appalachians, banjos, coal towns, soft green hills rolling east of the Mississippi. A pretty backdrop in somebody else's story. But these hills are hiding something. On a mountaintop in Georgia stands a stone wall 855 feet long that nobody can explain. Built by a vanished people the Cherokee remembered only as pale strangers who could see in the dark. There's a quiet tunnel in West Virginia where hundreds of men were sent to drill through solid rock. And the dust in that mountain killed them so fast the bodies were buried in a cornfield to hide the numbers. And in the far corner of these hills sits a lake that wasn't there one morning, born in a single night when the ground dropped and the Mississippi River ran backward and drowned a standing forest where it grew. So here are 20 of the most mysterious places in Appalachia that have been hiding from you. Place 20. The pond that boils in a Tennessee field. Most people zoom right past the little town of Gray, Tennessee, with no idea what's under it. In the year 2000, a road crew cutting a new highway sliced into black clay and accidentally opened a window 5 million years into the past. Buried in an ancient sinkhole were the bones of rhinos, alligators, red pandas, and mastodons, animals that have no business being in Tennessee, all preserved in a prehistoric pond. The state actually rerouted the highway to save it. A hidden hole in the ground turned out to be one of the most important fossil sites in North America. Place 19. The ridge where a lost people once lived. In the hills of Hancock County, Tennessee, along a stretch called Newman's Ridge, lived a community that genealogists and historians still cannot fully explain. The Melungeons were a group of dark-skinned Appalachian families who were here before written records could account for them, neither fully European, African, nor Native American by the labels of the time, and for generations they lived isolated on the ridges, shrouded in rumor. Modern DNA studies have offered partial answers while deepening the mystery of exactly where they came from. An entire people appeared in the Appalachian Mountains, and their origin is still argued over today. Place 18. The Tunnel to Nowhere. Outside Bryson City, North Carolina, a 2-lane road runs into the mountains, passes through a long, dark tunnel, and then simply stops at a wall of forest. Locals call it the Road to Nowhere. In the 1940s, the government promised to build a scenic road through the area after flooding displaced families and cut them off from their old homes and cemeteries. The road was started and then abandoned, leaving the tunnel stranded in the woods. People still walk through the pitch-black tunnel to reach the wilderness beyond. A broken promise left a highway that leads absolutely nowhere. Place 17. The town swallowed by the New River Gorge. Deep in the New River Gorge of West Virginia sits Thurmond, a town that was once a booming railroad hub with banks, hotels, and one of the busiest depots on the line. When the coal and the steam engines died, the town died with it. And today, only a tiny handful of people remain, with the empty buildings still standing along the tracks. The forest is slowly reclaiming what's left. A place that once moved millions of dollars in coal is now a ghost town most travelers pass without stopping. Place 16. The mine that runs backward with the seasons. In Coudersport, Pennsylvania, there is a small mine that breaks the rules of nature. During the cold months of winter, the shaft stays relatively dry. But as the outside air warms in spring, ice begins to form inside it, growing into thick columns and staying frozen straight through the summer heat. The colder it gets outside, the less ice there is, and the hotter it gets, the more appears. Scientists point to airflow and the rock structure, but visitors have puzzled over it for more than a century. A mine in Pennsylvania grows ice in July and loses it in January. Place 15. The zone where the modern world is banned. Tucked in the mountains of Pocahontas County, West Virginia, is a place where cell phones, Wi-Fi, and even microwave ovens are restricted by law. The National Radio Quiet Zone surrounds the Green Bank Observatory, home to the largest steerable radio telescope on Earth, and any stray signal would drown out the faint whispers it listens for from deep space. People who live there have adapted to life without wireless. In the middle of Appalachia, there is a zone where the 21st century is essentially switched off. Place 14, the abandoned coal town frozen in time. Along the Kentucky border sits Blue Heron, a coal mining community that was simply walked away from when the mine closed in the 1960s. Rather than rebuild the vanished wooden structures, the Park Service raised eerie steel skeletons where the buildings used to stand, marking the church, the homes, and the store with hollow metal frames you can walk through. Recorded voices of former residents play at each empty structure. It's a ghost town rebuilt out of steel outlines, telling the story of the people who lived and left. Place 13. The carved rock nobody can read. In a quiet field in Jackson County, North Carolina, sits a slab of soapstone covered in hundreds of carvings, and no one alive can translate them. Juticula rock is covered in swirls, lines, and shapes carved somewhere between roughly 2,000 and 1,600 years ago, and the Cherokee consider it sacred ground tied to a giant they called Juticula. Every attempt to decode the symbols has failed. Ancient people spent untold hours cutting a message into stone, and its meaning is gone forever. Place 12. The wall the moon-eyed people built. High on Fort Mountain in northern Georgia stands a mystery in stone. A wall roughly 855 feet long zigzags along the summit, built of loose rock, and no one knows for certain who stacked it or why, with estimates placing its construction anywhere from 1,500 to nearly 2,000 years ago. According to Cherokee legend, it was raised by a vanished race they called the moon-eyed people, said to be small, pale, and able to see in the dark. Whoever built it left no other trace. An ancient wall guards a Georgia mountaintop, and its builders disappeared without a name. Place 11. The Disappearing Creek. In the highlands of West Virginia, there is a place where an entire creek vanishes into the earth. At the Sinks of Gandy, Gandy Creek flows toward a mountain and then plunges straight into a cave mouth, running underground for nearly a mile through total darkness before emerging on the other side. Adventurers wade through the mountain following the buried stream. A full creek disappears into a hillside, travels through the dark heart of a mountain, and comes back out as if nothing happened. Place 10. The Golden Palace hidden in the hills. In the coal country of Marshall County, West Virginia, at the end of a winding mountain road, sits something that looks teleported from another continent. The Palace of Gold is an ornate temple covered in gold leaf, marble, and stained glass, built largely by hand starting in the 1970s by devotees of a Hare Krishna community in the middle of rural Appalachia. Peacocks wander the gardens. A gleaming palace of gold rises out of the West Virginia hills, where visitors expect nothing but forest. Place 9. The asylum built of hand-cut stone. In Weston, West Virginia, stands one of the largest hand-cut stone buildings in the entire Western Hemisphere, and for over a century, it held the mentally ill. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, opened in the 1800s, was designed for a few hundred patients, and at its worst was crammed with several times that number in overcrowded, deteriorating conditions before it finally closed in 1994. Its endless stone corridors now sit mostly empty. A massive stone fortress in the mountains spent 130 years holding secrets nobody wanted to see. Place 8. The Ghost Railroad Tunnel. In the woods of southeastern Ohio, at the edge of Appalachia, sits the crumbling Moonville Tunnel, all that remains of a vanished mining town that has completely disappeared into the forest. The rail line that ran through it was known for deadly accidents, and for well over a century, locals have traded stories of a lantern-carrying figure seen moving through the dark tunnel at night. The town of Moonville is gone, its people scattered. Only the tunnel remains, standing alone in the trees with its ghost stories intact. Place 7. The monster that landed in Flatwoods. In the tiny town of Flatwoods, West Virginia in 1952, something came down out of the sky. Witnesses described a bright object streaking over the hills, and when a group of boys and a local woman climbed to investigate, they reported a towering figure with a glowing face and a metallic body before fleeing in terror. The story became one of the most famous close encounters in American history. Whatever those people saw on that hillside in 1952 has never been fully explained. Place 6. The cursed spot on the mountain. In the deep woods of West Virginia lies a small, bare clearing where, according to persistent local legend, nothing grows and animals refuse to linger. Places like this dot the folklore of the mountains, spots that hunters and locals have avoided for generations, whispering that the ground itself is wrong. Some blame the soil, some blame something older and darker. Whatever the truth, the mountain folk learned long ago that certain patches of Appalachia are best left alone. Place 5. The largest ancient burial mound in the country. In Moundsville, West Virginia, rises a hill that isn't a hill at all. The Grave Creek Mound is one of the largest conical burial mounds ever built in the United States, raised by the Adena people roughly 2,000 years ago, standing about 62 feet tall and requiring an estimated 60,000 tons of earth, all moved basket by hand. No wheels, no animals, just people. An ancient civilization built a mountain of earth over their dead and then vanished into prehistory. Place 4. The serpent that watches the sky. On a ridge in the Appalachian foothills of Ohio coils one of the strangest ancient monuments on Earth. The Great Serpent Mound stretches roughly 1/4 of a mile in the shape of a giant snake, and its head aligns with the sunset on the longest day of the year, meaning its builders were tracking the heavens with astonishing precision. Even stranger, it sits on the edge of an ancient crater where a meteor struck long ago. A giant earthen serpent points at the sun, built by people who understood the sky better than we assumed. Place 3. The blue pools hidden in the gorge. Deep in a remote gorge in Scott County, Virginia, a hard hike from the nearest road, lies a chain of pools so vividly blue they look painted. The Devil's Bathtub is a series of swirling potholes carved into the bedrock by a mountain stream, their water an almost unreal shade of teal in the right light. Few outsiders ever find them. Hidden at the bottom of an Appalachian gorge sit some of the most beautiful and least known swimming holes in America. Place 2. The tunnel that killed hundreds in silence. Beneath Gauley Mountain in West Virginia runs a tunnel that hides one of the worst industrial disasters in American history, and almost nobody has heard of it. In the early 1930s, thousands of workers, most of them black migrants from the South, were sent to drill the Hawk's Nest Tunnel through nearly pure silica rock, with little protection from the dust. The dust destroyed their lungs. Estimates of the dead run as high as 764, many buried in unmarked graves in a nearby field to hide the scale of it. A quiet tunnel in the mountains swallowed hundreds of lives, and the mountain kept the secret for decades. Place 1. The lake that appeared in a single night. Here's the most haunting place of all. In the far corner of the region, near where the Appalachian foothills meet the Mississippi lowlands, sits a lake full of a drowned forest. During the violent New Madrid earthquakes of 1811 and 1812, the ground collapsed, and during the strongest shocks, the Mississippi River briefly reversed and poured into the sunken land, flooding a standing forest overnight. 2 centuries later, the ghostly trunks of those bald cypress trees still rise straight out of the water, and the same fault that made it is still active beneath the region right now. A forest died standing up in a single night. It's still standing in the water today, and the force that did it has never gone to sleep. And now you're one of the few people who actually knows it's there. So the next time somebody tells you Appalachia is just hills and fog, you'll know the truth. These mountains are hiding walls no one can explain. A lake born in one violent night, a tunnel that killed in silence, and carvings no living person can read. All of it sitting in plain sight, waiting in the oldest mountains on the continent. If any of these places surprised you, stick around, because every corner of this country is hiding something.